Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a deep dive into something pretty fascinating. We're talking Bitcoin. Is it really the future of finance? We've got this super interesting article. It's really about Bitcoin's significance and the current market perspective.
It's a really hot topic right now.
Yeah.
A lot of debate and discussion around it.
So we'll see if it's revolutionary tech or just a risky bubble.
Yeah.
Right. Let's unpack it all.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so to kick things off, Bitcoin was created by this mysterious figure, Satoshi Nakamoto, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2008. And it was this groundbreaking white paper. Nobody actually knows who this person is or was, or even if it was just one person.
Yeah, it's shrouded in mystery.
Total mystery.
It adds to the mystique of Bitcoin for sure.
So what they set out to create was a decentralized digital currency, free from the control of any government or central bank.
That's the key right there.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea of Bitcoin.
So no more Federal Reserve calling the shots.
That's the goal, at least. It's about giving power back to individuals.
So I could send Bitcoin to someone anywhere, say Japan, instantly.
Theoretically, yeah. Without any fees. That's a huge appeal for a lot of people.
And that's what kind of freaks out traditional finance folks, right?
Absolutely.
They're all about control.
They like control.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin takes that away.
So they see it as,
Risky.
unpredictable.
Unpredictable, yeah.
Okay, so then you've got folks like economist Robin Brooks. He's convinced Bitcoin is headed for a crash,
Yeah, he's pretty vocal about that.
especially with interest rates rising.
Right, a lot of economists are worried about the volatility,
They see it lacks fundamental value.
like real estate or gold.
Intangible assets.
Exactly.
But Bitcoin has proven pretty resilient, wouldn't you say? I mean, it's over $1.3 trillion market cap.
That's true. It's weathered some storms.
So are traditional economists underestimating its potential?
It's a good question. We're seeing a potential paradigm shift.
It makes you think.
It really does.
Okay, so how do we even compare Bitcoin to something like real estate? One's tangible, the other's digital.
It's a tough comparison.
It is, right?
Real estate, you've got that physical security. Gold has its historical,
Safe havens.
safe haven status.
But they have limitations.
Oh, for sure. Try buying property in another country.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's a nightmare. Bitcoin, on the other hand.
It's global, accessible, instant transactions.
Exactly.
The article even mentioned people buying real estate with Bitcoin now, especially in places like El Salvador.
It's becoming more mainstream.
So even with the volatility, there's some clear advantages.
Definitely. Especially in a globalized world.
So some argue it's a hedge against inflation and market manipulation.
Because it's not tied to any one government.
Or economy.
Right.
Its value is determined by the network, not by, central banks.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Makes it attractive to some investors, yeah.
Especially with all this inflation going on.
When you've got central banks printing money like crazy.
It's like, what do you do? Look at Bitcoin's limited supply. 21 million
It
coins.
starts to look appealing.
Maybe it's a way to protect my purchasing power instead of, my savings just eroding away in a bank account.
That's the argument a lot of Bitcoin proponents make.
It's a hedge against devaluation.
Right. And that's a real concern for many people globally.
All right, so we've got this decentralized, potentially inflation-proof digital currency. It's got the attention of individual investors, huge institutions. Where do we go from here? Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? Where do we go from here? We've talked about all the upsides. But what about the risks? I mean, let's be real here.
Oh, there are definitely risks. You can't talk Bitcoin without talking volatility.
Right. Like it's a roller coaster.
Huge swings.
For someone like me who's, used to more traditional investments.
It can be a wild ride.
Wild is right.
Imagine trying to, use Bitcoin to buy groceries.
And the price tanks while you're in line.
10% drop.
Oof, not a good shopping trip.
Not at all. Plus, there's the whole regulatory landscape. It's,
Governments are still figuring it out.
still evolving. And then you've got,
CBDCs?
right, Central Bank Digital Currencies. That's a whole other wild card.
What if they just, crack down on Bitcoin?
It could have a massive impact.
Okay, so there's regulatory risk.
For sure.
What about security? I've heard stories about people losing their Bitcoin.
Yeah, to hackers.
Hackers, scams. Is it safe?
It's a valid concern. The Bitcoin network itself is very secure.
Because of the blockchain, right?
Yes. Right, that technology is super robust.
So the network's good.
But individual investors can still be vulnerable.
So you got to be careful where you store it.
Absolutely. Use reputable exchanges, cold wallets, do your research.
Right. Okay, what about the environmental stuff? I hear mining Bitcoin is bad for the planet.
Yeah, that's a growing concern. Those computers that run the network,
They use a ton of energy.
a massive amount of electricity.
So a big carbon footprint.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
There are efforts to use renewable energy for mining.
That's good.
But it's still an ongoing debate within the Bitcoin community and beyond.
So it sounds like Bitcoin is a pretty complex investment. High reward, high risk.
That's a fair assessment. Like any investment, do your research.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Definitely understand the risks and only invest what you can afford to lose.
Solid advice. Okay, let's go back to this inflation hedge idea for a sec. We touched on it. But, like, some experts say Bitcoin is the answer to inflation.
Right.
Others are skeptical.
Yeah, it's not a simple answer.
So what's your take? Honestly.
Well, on one hand, you have that limited supply, and it's decentralized.
So no central bank manipulating it.
Exactly. And right now, with all this economic uncertainty,
And central banks just printing money.
it makes Bitcoin tempting, right? Because, fiat currencies,
They can be devalued so easily.
they can. Governments print more money, your purchasing power goes down.
Bitcoin can't be manipulated that way.
In theory, its value should hold up better during high inflation.
But it's not that straightforward, is it?
Not really. It's still a relatively new asset. Lots of factors can impact the price.
Not just inflation.
Right. Market sentiment, for example. Positive news, hype, that can drive the price up.
And negative news?
Sends it down. Regulations, too. A new law, an announcement.
That could affect things.
Definitely. And don't forget about technology.
Oh, right. Like new developments with blockchain.
New cryptocurrencies popping up, transaction speeds, costs, all that plays a role.
So it's complicated.
It is more nuanced than just saying inflation up, Bitcoin price up. Not guaranteed.
So maybe it's not a magic bullet solution to inflation.
Right. It's more like one piece.
A diversified portfolio.
Exactly.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Wise words. And as we discussed, Bitcoin comes with risks.
For sure.
Be aware of those before making any decisions.
Okay, so we've covered like the practical side of Bitcoin, the tech, the investments, the
Yeah.
risks. But there's this whole other layer, right?
The philosophical implications.
Exactly. It's not just about the money.
It's about, challenging how we think about value.
Control, the role of technology.
You got it. It's deep stuff.
I'm ready to dive in.
Me too. Let's get philosophical.
All right, so we talked about like the practical stuff.
Yeah.
But now, let's get philosophical. What
Yeah.
are the big ideas driving this whole Bitcoin thing?
Well, to me, it's about power, like a real shift in power.
Okay.
It's about decentralization, taking power away from,
Government.
governments, banks, those big institutions.
And giving it back to the people.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very libertarian kind of philosophy.
Okay.
Individual freedom, autonomy,
So you're not relying on someone else to like manage your money.
you're in control. You're at.
And that ties into the transparency thing, right?
Yeah.
Everything's
Or
recorded.
the blockchain,
Public ledger. Yeah.
no hiding stuff.
That's different from like the traditional financial system.
Oh, totally. That can feel so
Shady.
shady, secretive. Bitcoin's the opposite. Everything's out in the open.
Accountable.
Accountable, exactly.
So for people who are, kind of wary of big banks,
Distrustful of governments.
yeah, it's appealing.
It's like a system built on trust.
Instead of blind faith
That's a good way to put it.
and that transparency, that has some huge implications.
Oh, yeah.
Like think about corruption, fraud. It's way harder to hide that stuff with Bitcoin.
Every transaction is there.
Permanent record.
Can't erase it. Public.
So it's not just about like the money itself.
It's about changing the whole system.
That's almost revolutionary.
It is revolutionary. It's making us rethink, what is money?
What is value?
Yeah, exactly. Do we need a central authority to, control it all?
Okay, but realistically, can a digital currency really change the world that much?
I mean, it's still early days, right? But look at what it's done already.
It's disrupted things.
It has. Nobody could have predicted this.
It's like a big experiment.
In a way, yeah. We're all figuring it out as we go.
And we don't know what'll happen.
But the ideas, they're powerful. People all over the world are, connecting with this.
So if there's one thing I want listeners to take away from this deep dive, it's that Bitcoin is more than just a digital currency.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
To like the way things are, it could change everything. Maybe it'll put the power of finance back in the hands of the people. Who knows?
Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, Bitcoin is something to watch.
It's a conversation worth having.
Definitely.
All right, everyone, that's our deep dive for today. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.